President Trump made one of his worst decisions ever this week, and I know that's tough because he's made a lot of bad decisions. Trump kills stimulus talks, tweets no deal until after I win election. In the minutes after his tweet, the Dow Jones Industrial Average plunged more than 400 points. So he killed the talks on another round of stimulus payments. Now, when he realized that the market was plunging and he saw that he was getting universal negative coverage, he changed his tune. And he went on Twitter and he was doing a, late night tweet storm, the likes of which we haven't seen in a long time, where he was relentless and there were a lot of capital letters and a lot of exclamation points. And he was trying to reverse course a little bit. He was trying to say, that it's not my fault, it's crazy Nancy Pelosi's fault. And he even went as far as to say, get a bill to my desk now of $1,200 payments and I'll sign it immediately. And he tagged Nancy Pelosi, Mitch McConnell, his chief of staff, everybody who would be involved in doing such a deal. And what's amazing is today, Jeff Stein of the Washington Post is reporting that, as per usual, that was all bluster from Trump. That, no, the negotiations are actually dead, and it was Trump and the Republicans who killed it, and they're not going to do a $1,200 stimulus check because Trump, to the extent he actually wants it, and who knows, because he slapped it down yesterday, but now he says he wants it, it's not like the other Republicans are going to be like, rock and roll on that. I think Mitch McConnell would be first in line to say, yeah, I'm not doing that. Why? Because he's Mitch McConnell. You think he cares about regular Americans and how they're doing in this horrific time where everybody's struggling? He doesn't care. He doesn't care. So Trump killed the stimulus talks, pretended to resurrect them. They're still dead, which leads to this next devastating point. Suicide Prevention Info treads on unemployment board after Trump slams door on COVID stimulus. Listen, if you want to be humbled, if you want an eye-opening experience, if you want a slap across the face, here's what you do. You go read the Reddit unemployment page, because that will awaken you and enlighten you in a way that perhaps nothing else will. That page will turn you from, some sort of milquetoast centrist into a flaming lefty. Because when you realize the extent of the pain and the suffering and the damage and the poverty and the degradation that's out there, you understand radical change is actually the common sense position. So, listen, to put it as simply as possible, Washington, D.C. decided, we're going to screw you. They're comfy. They're cozy. Some insanely high percentage of the politicians in D.C. are millionaires. So they are quite cushioned from the blow of COVID-19 and the economic fallout. They have their job, they get paid a lot of money for it, and they don't even have to work that many days for it. They are colossally disconnected from your average American. And when you look at how we dealt with COVID-19 versus other developed countries, it really is amazing. Most developed countries did one form or another of nationalizing their wages. So they did shutdowns, and then people would get paid anywhere from 75% to 85% of their usual wages without working, and the government picks up the tab, and nobody gets fired. That was the most straightforward way to deal with this thing, and we didn't do that. Well, if you're not going to do that, and you're going to shut down, you have to do a recurring monthly payment. Guess what? We shut down, and we didn't do a recurring monthly payment. We did a one-time $1,200 or $1,600 payment, which, the effects of that are gone. And so how do you have an economy that's collapsing and then no lifeline, no support? Of course you're going to see the economic implosion, You set it up so that happens. Duh. Of course you're going to see that. Of course you're going to see over 30% of the American people can't make rent. Of course you're going to see 28 million on the brink of homelessness. I mean, this is really stunning. And they're just totally disconnected. They don't care. They don't know and they don't care, or to the extent they know, they still don't care. Either they're totally cushioned from it and they really don't know the hurt that's out there, or they know the hurt that's out there and they're just callous to it. Callous about it. And they're like, yeah, it is what it is. What am I supposed to do? Well, you're Washington, D.C. You're supposed to represent the people. The people are crystal clear with all the solutions that they want. We've seen the numbers now. UBI skyrocketed in popularity in the midst of this crisis. Gee, I wonder why. And here's the thing. People who are getting crushed right now understand that it's not their fault. Like, you could play this game where you pretend like, oh, we already live in a meritocracy, and if you're doing poorly, it's on you. You can maybe pull that trick on some people who are not too perceptive in normal times. But when you have a pandemic and an economic depression, that trick doesn't work because nobody thinks that the people suffering right now are just lazy or that they deserve it. Everybody knows they're getting screwed. And so if you're not going to offer a helping hand in that scenario, you're just begging for the system to be burned down. And you know what? The people will be correct to burn it down. Because a system that is this non-responsive to their needs is useless and shouldn't exist. So it's not a coincidence, by the way, that this happening coincides with a new poll coming out from the Boston Herald. Donald Trump is now 21 points down to Joe Biden. 21 points down. The other day we covered the story where he was 16 points down, and I was like, that's it, I'm pounding the gavel, this election's basically over. Now we got a new poll the very next day. 21 points down nationally. You want to know why? Because there's a pandemic, there's a depression, and numbnuts just shut the door on any more help before the election. Which means the American people are going to go, oh, okay, so then you're done. We're not interested in you. Anybody who is remotely on the fence, even people who were leaning Trump, if they're materially impacted by this, and they are, they're going to say, oh, okay, you made my mind up for me. In a pure anti-Trump swing election, everybody's going to default to Biden. A ham sandwich would win. What are you not getting about this? A ham sandwich. Anybody would win against Trump right now because of this kind of stuff. And his political instincts are beyond dulled. Because he's now listened to the likes of Larry Kudlow and other trickle-down fundamentalists and deregulation fundamentalists. He's listened to them time and time and time again about the direction of the economy. Well, guess what, Don? That's the same old, same old. That's the establishment and the status quo and the elites and the moneyed interests. The same people that Trump ripped Hillary for listening to. Trump had so many Goldman Sachs people in his administration, and he listened to them. 2017 tax cut law for the wealthy. So pretended to be this outsider. Now he's acting as the ultimate insider, the epitome of the establishment. And now the chickens are coming home to roost. I really think Trump rejecting the stimulus yesterday was the nail in the coffin for sure. I already had kind of pounded the gavel, but then when you add he rejected the stimulus, gavel quadruple pounded. This thing is over. This thing is over. And now he's on Twitter today, all desperate, tweeting about Obamagate this and like all this Fox News grandpa or Facebook grandpa nonsense that he's obsessed with because he's too deep in that bubble now and he lost all of his political instincts. There are no more normie issues he's focusing on. And the fact that he rejected the stimulus is such a great example of that. He thought he was playing hardball. He literally tweeted, like, I'm instructing the Republicans to not negotiate with Nancy anymore. Congratulations, you just cost yourself the election.